You're gonna become an emo artist pro after watching this YouTube video. And if you didn't, you can go get your 10-15 minutes back. JK, I can't actually give you your time back, but I'm pretty certain that these tips and tricks will help make you a better emo artist. Some of these tips and tricks you might have heard of before, and some of these you may have never heard of, but I swear I will have some good advice in this video, so stick through it. I will try to teach you how to make some good emo art, and for credibility reasons, here are some emotes that I've made in the past, and I sell them on my Etsy shop, which is linked down below if you're ever looking to go and purchase some arts. Also, if you would like to go and watch my emote drawing process, I have a YouTube video. I'll link it down below and pin it on this video if editing cat remembers to go add it in, but I need to go remake that. I need to make like a updated 2022 version, but as of now, that is something you can go reference. But in this video, I'm just gonna go over tips and tricks on how you can take your arts or your emo art to the next level. So let's get started. Step 1, first and foremost, is using a large canvas size. So I use a canvas that is 2000 by 2000 and 300 DPI. I used to draw on a canvas that was the base emote size of like 112 by 112, and it looks really muddy. And a lot of people are like, Kat, why are you drawing in such a large canvas? Like, you don't need to use a canvas size this large for emotes. I get it. Definitely use a larger canvas size, but Kat, why are you using one that's so big? I'm telling you, the reason is I sometimes take my emotes and turn them into stickers, prints, and merch. So when you're printing a piece of art, you need a very large canvas size with a high DPI so that it prints well, so it doesn't look very grainy and pixely. The problem now when you draw your emotes on a very small canvas is you can't then take this artwork and repurpose it for prints and things like that because the resolution is too small. That means you're gonna have to completely redraw all over again, and that sucks. And that's just, it's always really discouraging when you have to redo a piece just because you didn't do it correctly the first time. So I kind of keep that into account and I make sure I work in a very large file size. But this is an example of what happens when you draw in a canvas that's too small. So I don't actually have the working file anymore for this emote, but this was one of the first emotes I ever made for myself. This canvas is 112 by 112. So you can just see how grainy the art looks and how fuzzy it looks. It looks very muddy. And the reason being is because the canvas is too small. So when I would use any sort of brush to draw, it would come out very, very, very pixelated. So the art already, the quality of the lines are not good and it looks cluttered and muddy. So here was a redraw that I did of the same emotes, and you can just see how much cleaner this looks. And this was done in a canvas that is 2000 by 2000 with 300 DPI. So it's the same silhouette, like the silhouette never changed. The colors were, I picked less muddy colors, but the style, everything is basically the same. But you can just see the sheer difference between these two art pieces. Let me see if I can I'll try to put it side by side just to get like a reference example of just the sheer contrast. And this was simply because I used a much larger canvas size. So if I were to take this art piece now and downscale it to the same size as this one, it would look way better. So let me show you that. So this is one of my favorite sites to go and use emote examples. So this site is called applic.dev/inspect/twitch-elements. I know the name is really long, but there is no shorter way to put it. I'll link it down below if I remember. Editing Cat has a lot of things to link, and I don't think she's gonna remember. So here I zoomed it in quite a bit so that, you know, it's more visible, but you can clearly see the difference between the two emotes. The one on the left is the one drawn in the very small canvas size, and the one on the right is my redrawn version in the 2000 by 2000 canvas. You can see how much cleaner and less muddy the art looks, and that's simply because I'm using a much larger canvas. The second point I want to make is to simplify your art style. What happens is emotes are really, really, really small. So any details that you add, intricacies in your artwork gets lost when your emote is downscaled from whatever size you drew it in down to 112 by 112, which is the largest emote resolution that Twitch offers. So an example that I have here is the same emote, but I drew over it and added a lot more details. You can see I added strands of hair, I added eyelashes. Look at the eye detail that I added. And I mean, for reference, I used to do semi-realism art, so it was really difficult for me personally to swap from my semi-realistic style over to a very simplified style to make emotes. So when I first started making emotes, I had a lot of details in them too. Like look at I added fur and the tail, little strands of the fur. Look at the boot detailing, the detailing on the dress, and then this little charm thing that Ari has down her chest. And again, in comparison to my much more simplified style, where you can just tell it's a red dress, it's a blue tail. Well, I just made it blue because the white looked a little plain. The eyes are very simple, and so is the hair. And again, here is a side-by-side comparison of the artwork. This is the much more complicated version, and this is the much more simplified version. So now, if I were to add the much more detailed version into the little lineup of me as Ari, you can go see that it basically looks the same as the middle one, which is the simplified art style. It literally looks the same. This is also a very zoomed in version, so if I were to zoom it out a little bit more to how it would look like if you're on Twitch Mobile, which the emotes are a little bit bigger on Twitch Mobile than it is on your desktop, you cannot see any of the detail that I added. If I were to show you this and ask you, hey, what details did I actually add? You would not be able to point out anything. Not the eyelashes I added, not the strands of hair, not the fur, not the charm. Even the charm down her chest is not even visible because of how small these emotes are. So that's one thing to take into account. It's kind of a waste of time to make very intricate artwork for emotes specifically, simply because it gets lost in the sauce. Number 3, and this basically ties into the last point that I talked about, but it is to color your line art. So I will go back to reference these older pieces that I've made. But in this piece here, the line work is not colored whatsoever. So I used black line art for the entire thing. Also, the line art was the same size. So I guess that's 0.3, 0.5. Also vary the weight of your line art. The reason being, what happened here is because I added a lot of detailing to the center chest area where the dress is. There's a lot of black lines. It gets so muddy. It just looks like a black glob in the center, where I was trying to get details of the dress visible, but because of the black line art that I used, it's not visible at all when I zoom out. This is like a little blob, basically. But whereas a piece like this, or let me use my original one. Whereas a piece like this, where I colored in the line art, so everything of her dress, even the face, the skin, the hand, I colored the hand into like a red to match the skin tone of the face. I colored the dress and the line art is like a gray brown to kind of match the red. So that way when I zoom out, it doesn't muddy up the artwork with all of my lines, so that it blends in way nicer and it looks way cleaner. Now I can go through and try to remove some of the coloring I did on the line arts. And it's not as noticeable because I normally don't work with pure black when I'm drawing. So the line arts I now use is already, the original color was already a gray, but you can subtly see how it looks muddier.